Imagine, just for a second, that you are walking through a beautiful, bright green forest,
Oh, that sounds nice.
right? You find this nice shady spot under a giant tree with these huge sweeping branches, and you lean back against the rough bark to take a rest.
Sounds super relaxing.
It does. But instead of just hearing the wind rustling through the leaves, the tree leans right back down to you and whispers a joke in your ear.
Wait, a joke.
A full-on joke. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are traveling to a place where that actually happens. We're looking at a case file about a magical spot called Murmur Meadow.
Murmur Meadow. I love that name.
Me too. And sitting right smack in the middle of this meadow is the main subject of our deep dive today, the Whisper Tree. But, we aren't just here to listen to jokes. We're here to solve a mystery.
And, a talking tree just changes everything about how you picture a forest, doesn't it?
Yep.
Suddenly, nature isn't just the background scenery. The trees are like active chatting participants. And this whisper tree is the most active of them all. But it's not whispering serious, heavy secrets about the universe.
Yo.
It's whispering absolutely ridiculous, silly things to the animals who live nearby.
Yeah, if you lean in close to its bark, it might whisper something like, someone hid cookies in their sock drawer.
In a sock drawer.
I know, gross, right? Or, my personal favorite, it might tell you that a frog just burped in a teacup.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Think about that, like a magical, leafy walkie-talkie that only broadcasts silly jokes. So you, listening right now, I want you to try to imagine what kind of funny secret a tree might whisper in your own ear.
Ooh, that's a fun game.
Maybe it saw a squirrel trip over a pine cone? Or, maybe it knows exactly where your missing left shoe is.
We could all use that kind of intel.
Seriously. And the animals in Murmur Meadow absolutely love these secrets. The tree brought everyone together through laughter. It was really the heart of the community.
Which is exactly why the sudden change in our story is so jarring.
Right.
Because one morning, the animals wake up, and the meadow feels completely different.
Just totally wrong.
Yeah. There are no whispers, there are no giggles, there are no silly secrets being shared. There is just quiet.
Just total, complete silence.
Yeah.
The funniest tree in the meadow has entirely lost its voice.
Which is awful.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, when something goes wrong in Murmur Meadow, you don't just panic. You call in someone who knows how to look for answers. Enter Detective Lila Leaf.
Ah, Lila. She's great.
She is a sharp-eyed kid, armed with a magnifying glass, and she wears this detective hat that is exactly 2 sizes too big for her.
It really completes the look.
It does. She steps right up to this silent tree, takes one look at the situation, and declares, "This is serious. We've got a whodunit."
A whodunit, which, is a very specific type of mystery.
Right.
It literally means who done it, like who committed the crime. By calling it a whodunit, Lila is making a massive assumption right out of the gate.
She really is.
She's framing this quiet tree as a crime scene, and she assumes that someone or something in the meadow is responsible for taking the tree's voice away.
But, that raises a pretty huge logistical problem for a detective, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, how does a kid in a giant hat even begin to solve a silent tree mystery? You can't exactly interrogate a branch.
No, you really can't.
You can't shine a bright light at the trunk and demand, "Where were you on the night of the 14th?"
You'd just be yelling at bark.
Exactly.
When your victim is a tree that can no longer speak, you have to rely entirely on observational skills.
You have to just watch.
Right. You look at the environment, you look at the behaviors of the creatures nearby, and you look for anything out of the ordinary. Lila follows standard detective protocol here by starting with the animals around her.
She needs suspects.
Exactly. She begins to build this mental lineup of anyone who might have a motive to mess with the whisper tree.
And Lila's first instinct is to look at animals whose daily habits might actually be harmful to a tree. So her eyes immediately land on Nibble the squirrel.
Oh, Nibble.
Nibble's defining characteristic is that he is always chewing on things. It's just what he does.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's a sound logical leap.
Right.
Squirrels have teeth that never stop growing, so they constantly gnaw on bark and twigs and nuts just to wear them down.
It's like filing their nails.
Exactly. So Lila's thinking is that maybe Nibble chewed on the wrong branch or gnawed a little too hard on the trunk and somehow damaged the tree's ability to speak.
It makes a lot of sense. But Lila's detective brain doesn't stop there. Her paranoia starts to spread a bit, and she looks up into the branches at Chirpy the bird.
The neighborhood gossip.
Yes. Now, Chirpy doesn't chew on bark, but Chirpy loves to know absolutely everything.
So the motive here wouldn't be physical damage, it'd be jealousy.
Ooh, a juicy motive.
Right, because if you have a tree that is famous for telling secrets and a bird who desperately wants to be the only one spreading rumors about frogs in teacups,
Which is a great rumor.
there is a clear conflict of interest. Leela suspects that Chirpy might have silenced the tree to eliminate her gossip competition.
I have to admit, I absolutely love the drama of a bird trying to out-gossip a tree.
It's very theatrical.
It is. But Leela's suspicion continues to spiral until she's looking at Slow-Mo the turtle.
Poor Slow-Mo.
And her reasoning for suspecting Slow-Mo is that he is suspiciously slow. And, I have to throw a flag on the play here.
I thought you might.
I mean, are we really accusing a turtle of moving slowly? That's not suspicious, that's just his biology.
Yeah.
It feels a bit like accusing a rock of standing too still.
I completely agree with you. It's a huge stretch.
It really is.
But you do have to admire Leela's absolute thoroughness. She is refusing to leave any stone unturned, and honestly, no turtle unquestioned.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody. She's analyzing everyone's behavior, looking for anything that could be interpreted as hiding a secret. Even moving at a normal turtle pace is enough to get you on Leela's radar today.
Better safe than sorry when it comes to silent trees, I suppose. But Leela doesn't just limit her suspicions to the animals.
No, she doesn't.
She looks around the meadow. She feels the breeze on her face. And she dramatically whispers her final guess. The wind.
The wind.
Yeah, she wonders if the wind came through the leaves and simply stole the whispers away.
That is actually a beautifully poetic theory.
Right.
The wind interacts with the tree every single day, rustling the leaves and carrying sounds across the meadow. It shows that Leela is thinking outside the box. She's considering not just the living creatures, but the powerful forces of nature itself.
It's a fascinating train of thought. So we've got the chewer, the gossip, the slowpoke, and the weather.
Quite the lineup.
But having theories in your head is very different from having actual proof. You can't just point at a squirrel and say, you did it because you look chewy.
That's the defining difference between guessing and investigating.
Right. Yeah.
Real detectives need physical evidence. They have to examine the area where the problem happened to see what the environment is trying to tell them. Leela has to get up close and personal with the whisper tree.
So she pulls out her magnifying glass, adjusts that giant hat so she can see clearly, and she starts hunting for clues. And she actually finds them.
She does.
Leela conducts a very thorough physical investigation and uncovers some serious visual evidence. First, she looks closely at the trunk and finds that the bark has tiny scratch marks all over it.
Now, scratch marks could immediately point back to Nibble the squirrel and his sharp little claws or teeth. Or if we think about how a forest ecosystem works, it might just be the normal wear and tear of living in a busy meadow.
Oh, true.
Animals climb trees all the time, birds land on branches, bark gets scratched. But a good detective writes everything down, even if it turns out to be a normal part of life.
Yep, so she files the scratch marks away in her brain and keeps looking. She steps back and looks up at the branches. The leaves on the whisper tree aren't dancing in the wind like they normally do.
No, they're not.
They are drooping. They are hanging straight down, looking heavy, sad, and tired.
And this is a massive breakthrough in the case. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Drooping leaves are a universal distress signal in the plant kingdom. To understand why they droop, we have to look at how plant cells work.
Okay.
Inside every single leaf are millions of tiny microscopic building blocks called cells. And those cells rely on something called turgor pressure.
Turgor pressure. Wow, that sounds like something out of a spaceship engine room.
It really does sound highly technical, but it's actually a very simple mechanical process. Turgor pressure is just the water pushing from the inside of the plant cells out against the cell walls.
Okay, I think I follow.
It's what keeps the leaf puffed up, stiff, and reaching out toward the sun.
Oh, I see. It's like a water balloon.
Yes.
Like when a water balloon is completely full of water from the hose, the rubber is stretched tight and the balloon is very firm. You can hold it in your hand and it keeps its shape.
Exactly.
And if you let a bunch of the water leak out, the balloon gets all wrinkly and floppy. It just sags.
That is the perfect comparison because houseplants and towering oak trees share that exact same cellular machinery.
Wow, really?
Yeah. When the tree doesn't have enough water, its cells lose that pressure. They deflate, just like your leaky water balloon, and the leaves physically cannot hold themselves up anymore. They droop.
That makes total sense. And that biological clue leads Lila straight to her next piece of evidence. She looks down past the drooping leaves all the way down to her feet, and she notices that the dirt around the bottom of the tree is incredibly dry. It's cracked and dusty.
The dry ground provides the vital context for those drooping leaves.
Right.
A detective can't just look at one clue, they have to see how the clues connect. The leaves are deflated balloons, and the ground has no water to refill them.
Honestly, drooping leaves and super dry dirt, it sounds exactly like when my little potted fern at home gets all sad and floppy just because I forgot to water it for a week.
Oops.
Yeah, I'm not the best gardener. But you've just made the exact same connection that Detective Lila Leaf has made.
You're awesome.
But before she can fully put the pieces together, she receives one final, undeniable piece of evidence. An audio clue.
The most important one.
Right. Layla leans her ear right up against the rough bark of the whisper tree, right in the spot where the funny secrets about sock drawers usually come from.
The anticipation here is huge.
She holds her breath, and instead of a joke, she hears a tiny, weak, raspy voice whispering, "I can't whisper."
Oh, it's a heartbreaking moment.
It really is.
The tree is actively trying to communicate its distress, but it's also the most important turning point of the entire investigation. Because these specific clues, the droop, the dirt, the weak voice, they completely shatter Lila's original theory about a crime.
Her whole suspect list goes completely out the window. The tree isn't broken because someone attacked it. It's not quiet because Chirpy gossiped too much or because Nibble chewed a wire.
Exactly. The tree is experiencing a biological crisis. It's an internal need, not an external attack.
Right.
Every living thing requires certain basic elements to survive, and the whisper tree has run out of one of them.
So Leela stands there in her giant hat. She's looking at the cracked dirt, looking up at the sad, floppy leaves, hearing that weak, raspy voice in her ear. And suddenly, the puzzle pieces just snap together.
The big aha moment.
Yes. The big realization hits her. She gasps and announces to the meadow, "The tree isn't broken. It's thirsty."
It is a brilliant deduction.
It is.
In that split second, Leela has to shift her entire mindset. She has to stop being a detective hunting for a culprit and start being a caretaker looking for a solution. She remembers a fundamental rule of nature trees absolutely need water to stay healthy, strong, and in this case, funny.
Which seems so obvious when you say it out loud. But, when you are wrapped up in an exciting mystery pointing fingers at suspicious turtles and gossiping birds, it is so easy to forget the simple basics of how nature works.
We all fall into that trap, honestly.
Yeah.
We look for complicated conspiracies when the answer is often right at our feet in the dry dirt. Water is the engine for a tree's survival.
Without it, they're stuck.
Exactly. Without water, it can't pull nutrients from the soil. It doesn't have the energy to function, let alone the extra energy required to whisper jokes to the animals.
So the mystery of the silence is solved. But a detective's job, at least Leela's job, isn't done. Now we enter the action-packed phase of the story, the Great Rescue Operation.
The best part.
Leela doesn't just pat herself on the back, fold up her magnifying glass, and go home. She immediately leaps into action to save the tree.
And she is smart enough to know she can't do it alone. The story highlights this wonderful community effort. Leela calls the whole meadow together and explains the real problem.
I find it so amazing how the very animals who were just standing in a police lineup, basically accused of a crime, instantly transform into the ultimate rescue crew. Nobody holds a grudge. They just want to help their friend.
It's a wonderful pivot. They go from being looked at with suspicion to being active heroes. And the best part is how each animal uses their unique, natural abilities, the very abilities that made them suspects, to contribute to the rescue.
It's brilliant. Let's break down how they pull this off. So the birds, including our former primary suspect Chirpy, fly back and forth to a nearby stream, carrying little drops of water in their beaks.
Wow.
Now, flying back and forth with single drops of water sounds like an exhausting amount of work for a bird, but it shows how desperately they want those jokes back.
Every single drop counts when a living thing is that dehydrated.
Truly. And then we have Nibble the squirrel. Lula originally suspected him because his defining trait is chewing and digging. Well, he puts those exact digging skills to vital use.
Go, Nibble.
He uses his little paws to rapidly dig a deep trench in the dirt, making a circle all the way around the base of the tree.
Which is so important.
Wait, why doesn't everybody just pour the water directly onto the wood of the trunk? Like, why do they need a trench at all?
That is a great question. Trees don't drink through their wooden trunks.
Oh, they don't.
No, they drink through a massive invisible network of roots buried underground, and those roots spread out really wide, far past the trunk.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you pour water onto hard, completely dry dirt, it often just rolls right off the surface and away from the tree. By digging a trench, nibble creates a little bowl, a reservoir.
Oh, smart.
This ensures that the water the birds are bringing sinks deep down into the soil exactly where the root tips are waiting to absorb it.
Nibble is practically a little landscape architect.
Huh.
He's making sure the water goes exactly where the biology needs it. And what about Slow-Mo the turtle, our suspiciously slow friend?
Well, the story specifically notes that slow-mo helps too, eventually.
He gets there on his own time. I love that.
Yeah.
He might be slow, but he still chips in. They all work together as a massive team, pouring all the water they can gather right into the trench. Nibble dug.
And after all that hard work, after pouring drop after drop into the dirt, there's a very tense moment. The story says, at first, nothing.
Which is terrifying when you just put in all that effort.
Yeah.
But biologically, that makes sense, right?
Completely. When you water a severely dehydrated plant, it doesn't instantly inflate the very second the water touches the roots. It's a mechanical process.
It takes a minute.
Yeah, the microscopic root hairs have to absorb the moisture from the soil. Then they have to push that water all the way up the trunk, fighting gravity the whole way, using a process called capillary action.
Capillary action. That sounds like tiny invisible elevators carrying the water up the inside of the tree.
Precisely. The tiny elevators have to travel from the deep roots all the way up the tall trunk and out into the very tips of the highest leaves. It takes time.
But for Lila and the meadow animals, those few seconds must have felt like an absolute eternity.
Oh, for sure.
They are standing there, completely quiet, holding their breath, staring at this silent tree. They're wondering, did it work?
Yeah.
Was Lila actually right? Is this enough water to fill the balloons back up? The suspense is incredible.
It is the ultimate test of her detective work. If the tree speaks, her theory was correct and she read the clues right. If it stays silent, well, she failed, and they have to go back to the drawing board.
So everybody is quiet. The birds have stopped flying. Nibble has stopped digging. Slow-Mo has finally arrived. They're all watching the branches. And then a rustle,
A shimmer.
a whisper. The leaves actually start to move. The floppy water balloon leaves are puffing back up, stretching out toward the sun as the tiny elevators deliver the water. And a voice comes from the trunk.
Is it the weak voice?
No, it's not weak and tiny this time. It's clear, bright, and incredibly grateful. The tree whispers, "Thank you."
The joyful return of the whisper tree.
Yes.
It's a triumphant moment. The biological machinery is working again, and the rescue mission was a complete success.
The meadow is saved. The jokes about burping frogs can continue. You can just imagine the animals cheering and jumping around the roots. And right in the middle of it all is Detective Lila Leaf, adjusting her giant hat, holding her magnifying glass.
Taking a well-deserved bow, I hope.
Oh, absolutely. She smiles, looks at her friends, and delivers her big, dramatic wrap-up speech. She says to the cheering crowd, "Case closed. The mystery wasn't who, it was what."
That single line is the brilliant core of this entire investigation. The mystery wasn't who, it was what.
It really hits home.
She is pointing out a trap that almost everyone falls into. When something goes wrong, our very first instinct is to look for someone to blame. We look for a who. Who broke it? Who ruined it?
We want a villain.
We do. But sometimes there is no villain. Sometimes the problem is just a situation that needs fixing. It's a what. The real problem was a lack of water, not a culprit.
Nobody did anything wrong. Nibble was just being a squirrel. Chirpy was just being a bird. Slow-Mo was just being a turtle. It was just nature needing a little bit of a helping hand.
It is a very mature realization for a kid in an oversized hat. It shifts the focus of the entire community, from pointing fingers and blame to offering care, maintenance, and teamwork.
And the animals totally understand. They are just thrilled to have their funny, secret-telling tree back in action. The story ends with one final, perfect review of Lila's detective work, delivered by none other than Slow-Mo the turtle.
What does he say?
He leans in and whispers his final verdict. Best mystery ever.
A high compliment from a turtle who takes his time forming his opinions.
Seriously.
It reminds us that paying close attention to our environment, really looking at the leaves, feeling the dirt, noticing what's different, is the best way to understand what the living things around us actually need to thrive.
Which brings us to the end of our Murmur Meadow case file. But before we go, I want you, listening right now, to take a little bit of Lila Leaf's detective spirit out into your own world today.
Oh, I like this idea.
Because while real trees might not whisper silly secrets to you about cookies in a sock drawer, they absolutely are living things. And just like the whisper tree communicated that it was thirsty by dropping its leaves, the trees in your neighborhood are communicating all the time.
They respond to the changing seasons, to the rain, to the hot sunshine. They have their own slow, quiet language of dropping leaves, growing buds, and reaching for the light.
Exactly. So here is something fun for you to try today. Go outside, find a tree near your home or in a park, and just look at it really closely. Be a detective. Are the leaves bright and green and puffed up with water? Is the bark rough or smooth?
Write down your clues.
And as you look at it, wonder to yourself, if that tree really could lean down and whisper a silly secret in your ear right now, what do you think it would say? Thanks for joining us as we unpack the secrets of the whisper tree. Keep your eyes open, keep your magnifying glass handy, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.